would say that participation in STAR has completely changed my intermediate reading instruction.
It made me rethink what I do. I thought I knew how to teach reading, but I realized I didn't know how to teach reading.
For the first time, all I've been teaching is zeroing in on the real issues that are holding them back from reading and not allowing them to
helping you reach the intermediate level readers who have been stuck completely and not moving levels.
Before STAR, I can remember having many students that would get stuck at that 5th grade TABE equivalent level, and I would do just about anything to try to help them, and then they'd go to TABE test and it would still be the same. And now with STAR, I finally know how to help those learners.
The thing that I've noticed about STAR is that I see it is designed for a particular group of readers, but there's applicability in all of the strategies for our ELL students, or other groups of readers who might be at the GED level or even below, because it's about instructional strategies. So that's what I look forward to implementing in our program, is the instructional strategies.
To me, I just think of the strong instruction piece, whether it's with one student or with many students. It can be implemented just by how we plan.
I think, too, you're going to find most teachers have some knowledge of reading instruction, but as we learn about these strategies, we not only learn how to fill in the gaps, like for me it was alphabetics, but you also learn how to do what you're doing better, how to get more focused, how to use that authentic assessment. They give you rubrics to be able to give your learners feedback. I mean, there's a whole toolkit that goes along with it. So there's that support built in all along the way with lots of suggestions about how to implement it. And so as we take these materials back and try them, we realize we did know some, but this is really fleshing out in a very positive way, how do we help those people to advance.
I'm focusing more on the learner rather than the end product. And now that I'm focusing on strategies to read the content's coming along, but I'm not really exactly teaching it anymore, but they're still doing better with it. I teach the reading strategy for it. So it really changes how I'm teaching and what I'm focusing on. That has been so wonderful to get this, to actually kind of finally realize what the problem is. It's like, okay, you have trouble reading. Your TABE score is a 5.9. Let's work harder. What work harder means nothing. But now it's like, oh, you have trouble with vocabulary, or you have trouble with alphabetics, or it's the fluency, or it's all of these in comprehension. Now we know what we can work on. I'm not just shooting in the dark.
First of all, it has given me a much more complete profile than I ever got from the TABE. So, I would get the complete report of the TABE, that all the questions that they missed and got right, and okay, let's work on this, but it didn't matter what I did, it didn't really seem to make a difference. Now I know that TABE score is a much smaller piece, and now I've got a whole library of things that I know about them. Because, I can take two students that have identical TABE scores, and one can be completely fluent, reads beautifully, but doesn't remember a thing that she's read and doesn't understand half the words. The other one has a fabulous vocabulary, and I can tell from her comprehension strategies that she's using all kinds of different things, but her fluency is so poor that that's what's holding her back. And before I would have treated those two students exactly the same. Now I know how to help each one of those students.
You have a student who may be comprehending at an 8th grade level on the TABE, but then you find out that their word recognition is at a 3, and their fluency is at a 4, and you can begin to see really clearly the pieces that are missing that are holding them back.
Diagnostic testing really made us take a look at all the components of reading and start to determine really where we could strengthen areas so those students were able to have more success with those tests.
And I think I never would have, we never would have thought putting her in a fluency class had it not been for the testing that we had.
We're so much more focused on exactly what it is we need to instruct for and instruct on.
They love the assessments. What they especially like is that I am able to, at the end, go through and speak to them about each of the 4 component areas and tell them what they're doing well, but then zeroing in specifically on those areas that they're struggling in.
I'll say to them, you know, this is where you need to focus. This is what I see is holding you back. Is kind of the way I put it to them, and they always go, you know, whatever that one or two things are, they get it. They understand that.
And most of the time, they're not surprised at all. Most of the time, the students have said, I knew there was something, or I always struggle with vocabulary, or I know I don't read well out loud.
They know what they're good at, they know what they have trouble with, and they realize it's not that they're stupid. They have strengths, they have weaknesses. Let's address the weaknesses and pull down the strengths. They come out with a lot more self-esteem.
So after they took the tests, they said, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
What are my results?
Right.
And then they told other students that, oh yeah, you want to do that so you can find out,
Sure.
you know, what you need.
I can think of one in particular who was really reticent to do it, but once I started, she's like, this ain't too bad. So this is kind of fun.
What have been your students' favorite activities?
They love vocabulary.
They love the vocabulary.
The vocabulary.
Oh, vocabulary, I think, probably ranks the highest.
They love the vocabulary. There's no doubt about that. They love the vocabulary.
They love talking about words. And now they're really liking the fluency when we're reading a novel together. They love reading. Even when they stumble, they're having a good time to read, and they don't like it when I stop. They don't like to share. They like to keep reading. The collaborative oral reading becomes, I want to read the whole thing out loud.
Learners that would refuse to read out loud at the beginning, and now they're anxious. They all want to read, whether, and they recognize they have problems, but that doesn't stop them anymore. Whereas before they could do it.
All of a sudden, they're volunteering to read out loud in class, which they never did before. They will come back and say, yeah, I was reading at church, or I was reading to the gals in the unit.
The results are more qualitative. It's what students are telling me. They're excited. They're on time for this class, which is right after lunch, which I can't say that about some of the other classes.
I'm in the Department of Corrections, so I have a very challenging clientele, but my pre-GED class, which had been one of my most, you know, there were gals in that class that had been in that class for years and were flat on their TABE scores, unmotivated, just going through the motions. And once I started implementing STAR, they're excited, they're energized, they're serious about learning, and they tell me that. And it's just changed the whole atmosphere in my classroom.
And I actually had one student, and she came up to me, she said, how long are we going to be doing this? I said, well, a little while. I said, why? Is it okay? And she said, I love this. This is what I've been waiting for the entire time I've been in this program. And she's been in the program for over 2 years.
We're noticing amazing things in the 3 weeks that Paula has been instructing her specific STAR class. We had an opportunity to tape them before and to do a tape test afterwards, and we've seen dramatic increases.
I've tested 10 out of the 11 people at this point in time. 7 of those 10 made gains. Some of them very substantial gains.
I've been able to move students from the pre-GED to the GED classes, and just this past week I had a gal who came to us at a second grade equivalent, moved up to 5th grade, came to me as a result of STAR, moved to 9th grade, and then last week took a pre-test and got a 600.
And these are students in Dan's case who are having trouble with passing the state, the BST test. And after you took a look at that information and you structured your instruction, then those students were able to pass the BST. So that was, I mean, one of our huge successes. It was really valuable.
Yeah.
Really.
It was just nice to see those immediate results.
Just go for it.
And when you work in a small program, you just redefine everything, you know, in your own little head. When they say class, you know it's pretty much one-on-one. And there's nothing in STAR that doesn't work with a one-on-one.
And I'll also be aware, it does take time. Like any new idea, it takes time, and it takes more time than you think it will.
Don't be afraid of the work and the challenges and the adjusting that you're going to have to do. because I think in the long run, everything you do, you're going to find that it's worth it.
It's still all very confusing, and it looks very haphazard, at least in the beginning. But I think it's good. It's good for them.
You're not going to be able to tackle everything in one day, in 1 month, but start to look at it as in manageable pieces and not to get overwhelmed, because it's an overwhelming.
It's incredibly overwhelming. It absolutely does. But you got to push through it. I promise that when you get the group together and you begin the direct instruction in the 4 component areas, the instant results you're going to see just in the demeanor of the students and the comfort level of the students is worth every minute of it.
And sometimes you just jump in and do it, and it works.
Just jumping in has really worked well for me, but if that's not your style, I think even just starting with a small group, once you see the difference that it makes with those students, you'll just want to bring it to every student that you work with.
We started by using the word pilot, and we don't use that word anymore.